We have new Trump animations.
I love it.
It's dramatic. I like it too.
It's like, speaking of the saints, it's like glorious, like coming out of heaven.
It took forever to book that orchestra.
Well, from saints to cabinet comes marching in. President-elect Donald Trump is expected to focus on filling out his economic team after making another key appointment yesterday.
Bill Malugin is live in West Palm Beach, Florida. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Ainsley, good morning to you. So obviously the economy was a huge pillar of Donald Trump's campaign this time around. So there's a lot of eagerness out there to find out who is he going to select as his Treasury Secretary. That's still up in the air right now, but a handful of names are being tossed out there for consideration. Take a look. According to the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, these are 4 of the guys they're looking at, a couple of which reportedly met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago in recent days. Kevin Warsh, former Federal Reserve Governor, Mark Rowan, a Wall Street billionaire, Howard Lutnick, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, and then investor Scott Bessent. Now, Trump did make one pick yesterday for his administration. You guys just mentioned this. He named Brendan Carr as his chairman of the FCC. Carr currently serves as the senior Republican commissioner on the FCC, and in naming him, Trump said in part, quote, "He will end the regulatory onslaught that has been crippling America's job creators and innovators and ensure that the FCC delivers for rural America." Now, Trump made a few picks on Saturday as well. Take a look. The biggest of them was Chris Wright. He is going to serve as Trump's energy secretary. That's a big position. It oversees the stockpiles of U.S. military nuclear weapons. William Scharf is tapped to be a White House staff secretary. And then you got Caroline Leavitt, who's tapped to be press secretary. She'll be sparring with the media in the coming years. She's 27 years old. That makes her the youngest press secretary ever. As for Trump's other picks, Democrats have been throwing cold water on some of them. Take a listen.
Is this the very best that America has to offer for a moment like this with so many challenges that we confront? Of course not. America deserves better.
A Republican senator who votes to confirm Matt Gaetz or Robert Kennedy or Tulsi Gabbard will be remembered by history as somebody who completely gave up their responsibility to Donald Trump.
And guys, it was interesting. Just a short time ago this morning, the hosts of MSNBC's Morning Joe program announced that they privately met face-to-face with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago on Friday. They said it was their first meeting with him in 7 years, and that while they disagree with him on a variety of topics, they agreed to reopen lines of communication, saying they don't want to just talk about Donald Trump, they want to start talking to him again. We'll send it back to you.
If that came, we're just hearing that too, Bill. That is probably the most magnanimous thing any individual in America has done in a long time.
After they called him every name under the sun.
For 3 years, they called him fascist, Hitler. Every day, at every panel, there was nobody even to say, ever since Harold Ford left that building, there was not one person saying anything nice about Trump. And for him to take that, what is it, breakfast?
It just shows you, though, that he does want, you know, to smooth things over. Maybe he is going to unite our country. And like you said earlier, everyone's doing the dances out on the...
Hey, Bill, when Rachel Maddow shows up at Mar-a-Lago, can we make that a Fox News alert?
Well, if we can get a camera down there, we'll show it to you guys live.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So that's interesting.
Well,
all right.
Well, the president continues to fill out his cabinet. And I know, like, there's a lot of high-profile one, like Secretary of State and National Security Advisor who's coming up a little bit later. Keep your eye on this. It's the FCC chair and a senior Republican on the FCC. He's got a great resume. First nominated back in 2017. He's going to focus on censorship. Is focused on not censoring, but censorship, especially on the social media platforms. And what I think is so significant about this, we already have the exposure thanks to Elon Musk buying Twitter. Now there's going to be a focus, and all the focus is going to be on Google, on Facebook, and the other behemoths, and Snapchat, all the behemoths that are rising, have been risen and so dominant, as well as their status as a journalistic entity. Are they going to have to give a balanced perspective when they do? Are they going to have immunity from prosecution and lawsuits when they defame people?
Well, he sent a letter to Apple, Meta, Microsoft, and Alphabet, all of the CEOs, and he's warning them for what he believes is censorship and what he's seen in the past. He said Americans have lived through the unprecedented surge in censorship. Your companies played significant roles in this improper conduct.
Right. And keep in mind, it's only over the last couple of years where the FCC has had some purview over social media. In addition to essentially doing battle with social media companies to try to make sure that it is a free and open place for people of all political voices to express themselves. Keep in mind, he's also going to be involved in television, which is, between radio and television, two of the core jobs of the FCC. And essentially, there have been a number of Republicans who, over the last number of years, have said that the TV networks have gotten way too liberal. They've got to be back more in the middle and at least give people on the right a chance.
Maybe that's why Mika and Joe went.
You never know.
Self-preservation.
Maybe so.
Yeah, but I think it's also interesting to see that when it comes to what happened at SNL, when SNL put Kamala Harris on and didn't put Trump on, what they did is they put so much heat on NBC. They say, what can we do for you?
Yeah.
And Trump said, and they said, we're going to offer you a spot on NASCAR. And he said, yes.
Well, this is the guy who put the heat on him.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Blasted NBC.
So it shows you they reacted, and now he's got more power.
Yeah. In the meantime, let's talk a little bit, and Bill Maloogian touched on this. We thought by now we would know who the new Treasury Secretary is, who's going to sign the dollar bill. We thought it was going to be either Howard Lutnick or Scott Bessent. Both of them have been on this program. But then, now there are two new names. Kevin Warsh, who has been on the Federal Reserve, and in fact, Trump wanted him to be the new Powell, but Powell wound up with the job, and that he was regretful about that. Mark Rowan, a billionaire at Apollo Global. And the backstory is, according to the New York Times, that apparently Howard Lutnick, screen left, who's co-chairing the transition, apparently he's getting on Trump's nerves. He's hanging around too much, and the people who talked to the Times said he's manipulating the transition to help himself. They said it's like a knife fight between those two screen left, with Howard being the aggressive. So now, rather than pick one of those two, they're adding two more candidates.
Well, Scott was on with Brian. He came on our show last week, and Brian interviewed him. And what's interesting is that screen right, Howard Lutnick, who's CEO at Cantor Fitzgerald, he lost his brother actually in 9/11. And he is the one in charge of the transition team, and he and Linda McMahon, and they've been working on the transition team since, I think it was it August or was it September? We reported that the day after Trump won. But for a while, they've been working on this transition team, and so he was interviewing Scott Bessent, and then I think he just said, you know what, I might want the job, right?
Went right to the president, and Scott feels as though he was a little bit double-crossed. Obviously, he was. You're interviewing me, screening me, finding out my pluses and minuses, and go, I'm better. So I think Trump's in the middle of it. He's going to expand it. I also heard Robert Lighthizer could be somebody else, a dark horse, who Robert Lighthizer has this rare thing. He was saluted consistently by Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and President Trump. He was unbelievable with the trade deals he pulled off. Everyone focuses on China, but he did a ton of them, including redoing USMCA. So that's somebody to keep in mind, too. So he'll be named shortly. Also, interesting, Ben Carson's name's coming up again. And what is he going to do? Is he going to be HUD again? And I don't think so.
Well, I think he said he wasn't going to. Yeah. He wasn't going to be a part of the cabinet.
Well, no.
Didn't he say that?
He put out on Twitter that he will not be Surgeon General.
Surgeon General, that's
but
what
he is apparently going to be speaking to the former and future presidents shortly about how he can help. The interesting thing about Howard Lutnick is, and this is one of the core things that Trump ran on, tariffs. Howard is 100% behind some sort of tariff movement.
Both of them are.
Howard is super bigger.
You think Howard's? I thought he was late to that party. I thought he was more traditional.
When he was here about 3 weeks ago, we talked a lot about tariffs, and he is completely behind it.
And I was reading that both of them are for Trump's tariffs, trade tariff policies. And Bessent even said tariffs are a means to finally stand up for Americans.
It's leverage. You go up, hey, unless you come to the table, 100% tariffs on this. And they're all going to focus on China, which I think could get Democrats and Republicans both together on that.
And Lutnick said, for my whole life, I was a fiscal conservative, social liberal. The Democratic Party moved away from me. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Well, Trump's going to talk to the two new candidates this week. Maybe by Friday, we'll know who the guy is who's going to sign the money. I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.